us today and sharing that insight from Romania. Now we move on to our next news. U.S. President Donald Trump has stated that Iran is seeking a deal to avoid military action, but the U.S. has set a deadline for negotiations regarding Iran's nuclear program. Trump has warned that time is running out, highlighting the large U.S. naval presence in the Gulf as a sign of increased pressure. Iran, however, remains firm, maintaining that its missile defense systems will not be part of any talks and insists that its nuclear program is peaceful. Iran's foreign minister has expressed that while no direct talks are planned, negotiations could occur based on mutual respect, while Trump had laid out two conditions for avoiding military action: halting Iran's nuclear development and ending the suppression of protests. Human rights organizations report thousands of deaths linked to the recent protests, with the final toll possibly reaching much higher. Now for this discussion, we welcome Mr. Raymond Vickery. He's an international affairs expert and former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce, joins us live from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much, Mr. Vickery, for joining us. Good to see you. Now looking at this, thank you. Now looking at this, why do you think Iran is so emboldened, or Iran wants U.S. to see eye to eye? Oh, and how do you see the capacity of Iran? Is it capable of counterattacks or protecting their vision or stance right now?
Well, thanks very much for having me. It seems to me that the latest situation between President Trump and the Iranian authorities indicates that the Trump administration does not have the prerequisites for waging peace, bringing peace to the area. It's absolutely clear that you have to have a strategy, you have to have partners, you have to have principles in order to wage peace, just like you wage war. This has not happened with the Trump administration in regard to Iran. Instead, it seems that the transactional approach of President Trump is the one which is prevailing, and that is that you will enter into some sort of negotiation on one point, and that President Trump will come out the winner. This approach is aided, I guess, by what President Nixon used to call the madman theory, and that is that your adversary does not know that he or she is dealing with a rational actor, and is therefore willing to make a deal. This is an entirely inadequate way to approach the problem of Iran, but this statement, the latest that there is an opportunity for negotiation, is just a continuation of this transactional approach. The problem is that President Trump thinks the madman approach will result in short-term gains in which he can say that he has won a victory, but at some point there may be a miscalculation which leads to a general war. This is entirely possible in regard to Iran, which does have some military assets. They do not have the ability to win an all-out war, but as has been shown with U.S. involvement in Afghanistan and Iraq, much less Vietnam, you do not have to show that you have the ability on Iran's part to absolutely prevail militarily in order to bring about a situation in which the United States does not accomplish a transactional goal. So what has to happen now is to step back and try to bring about a partnership approach with other nations who in the past have been willing to work with the United States, including Europe, including India, including Saudi Arabia, and come up with an overall strategy which is realistic to provide some stability. But that's not the Trump administration and not President Donald Trump's way of proceeding. His way is we're going to have a transaction. I'm going to bring about sufficient pressure. The other side won't know how far I'll go, and therefore they'll make concessions. That is, in the longer run, an entirely inadequate way to approach the problem.
Right, and as the U.S. Says that diplomacy is open, but what is realistic right now? Because the armada is right there, ready, and it seems like Iran is not unlikely to change their stance on nuclear, on their missiles. So what diplomatic channels are open?
Well, diplomatic channels are open, and it's always better, as Churchill said, to have jaw rather than war, which involves the killing of peoples and widespread destruction. But we do not have a pathway forward to bringing about a genuine peace here. One saving grace for President Donald Trump is that he does not seem to be willing to commit to long-term hostilities. His style is to send over a bomber and bomb something, whether it be in Nigeria, Yemen, or to capture some leader and think the problem is solved. That is evidently the way in which he's viewing Iran. He has said, last June when they did the attack on the nuclear facilities, that this problem was solved. And yet now, in addition to citing protection of the demonstrators, which he seems to have backed off from, he's citing stopping the nuclear program again. Well, he can't have it both ways. He didn't solve it by sending in some bombers, and that's not the way in which problems like this get solved, or at least ameliorated. But he doesn't see that. The most likely situation is brief flare-ups of hostilities, and then Trump declaring some sort of victory and backing off, and waiting for the next transaction that he thinks he can win. But it's the trouble is miscalculation, and when you get into that situation, you can have escalation, and you have general hostilities. So, as I said earlier, it's time for others who have interest in the region, other powers, to put the pressure on the Trump administration to come up with some sort of coherent strategy, yes, in which Iranian problem can be at least ameliorated.
Yes, we will be eyeing that. With that, I would like to thank Mr. Raymond Vickery for joining us today and sharing that insight. Now we move on to Ethiopia. One person was killed and another was injured